Ethan Carter strolled through the bustling streets of downtown, his designer shoes clicking rhythmically against the pavement. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the city, but Ethan felt a chill deep within. He was a billionaire entrepreneur, a man whose name was synonymous with success, but today, he felt like a ghost drifting through the vibrant life that surrounded him. The towering glass buildings reflected the light of the sun like diamonds, yet they felt more like prison bars to Ethan, isolating him from the world outside. As he walked, Ethan's mind raced with thoughts of his latest business ventures. He was in the midst of finalizing a deal that could elevate his company to new heights, yet the excitement he once felt had dulled into a routine. The thrill of accomplishment had become a hollow echo, a reminder of the sacrifices he made along the way. Friends had become mere acquaintances, and relationships withered as he poured every ounce of himself into his work. He had everything: wealth, power, influence, but the emotional distance in his heart left him yearning for something more: connection. "What's the point of it all if I can't share it with anyone?" he muttered to himself, his voice barely above a whisper. He stopped at a crosswalk, watching his families rushed by, children laughing and playing. A pang of loneliness pierced his heart. He had long stopped believing in the notion of family, convinced that he was better off alone, shielding himself from the vulnerability that came with love and connection. As he crossed the street, the lively atmosphere of the park beckoned him. It was a small oasis amidst the chaos of the city, a place where laughter and joy thrived. Ethan glanced at his watch, contemplating whether he should head back to his office or indulge in a moment of leisure. The thought of returning to the sterile environment of his glass-walled office felt suffocating. With a resigned sigh, he decided to take a detour into the park, hoping to escape the weight of his thoughts, even if just for a moment. The park was alive with the sounds of children playing, couples chatting, and the rustle of leaves dancing in the gentle breeze. Ethan walked past the manicured lawns and colorful flower beds, feeling a warmth seep into his heart as he observed families enjoying their time together. Yet, deep down, the joy of the scene felt foreign to him. It was as if he were watching a movie unfold, detached from the real emotions that accompanied such moments. That's when he spotted them, four children playing together under the shade of an old oak tree. They were engrossed in a game, their laughter ringing like music in the air. Ethan stopped in his tracks, an inexplicable pull drawing him closer. As he watched, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was different about these children. Each of them bore a striking resemblance to him, features that mirrored his own. The same dark hair, the same mischievous glint in their eyes. It was uncanny. "Hey, look at me!" shouted a boy, leaping into the air and performing a clumsy somersault. His laughter was infectious, and Ethan felt a smile tug at the corners of his mouth despite himself. "Nice move, Jake!" a girl with curly hair exclaimed, clapping her hands in delight. "But you'll never beat my record," a girl with big, innocent eyes chimed in. "You're just jealous because you can't do it." Ethan's heart raced as he took a step closer, the magnetic force of their joy pulling him in. He didn't realize he was holding his breath until he heard the soft voice of the youngest child, a little boy with a cheeky grin, say, "I can do it. Watch me." "Max, wait. You'll hurt yourself," the girl with curly hair shouted, but it was too late. Max took off running, arms outstretched, as he prepared for what he thought would be his grand leap. Ethan's instincts kicked in. "Careful," he called out, rushing forward just in time to catch the boy as he stumbled forward. Their eyes met, and Ethan felt a jolt of recognition, as if he had known this child forever. "Thanks, mister," Max beamed, undeterred by the near fall. "I'm gonna be a superhero one day." Ethan chuckled, the sound foreign yet delightful. "Superheroes have to be careful, you know. Even they can get hurt." The children gathered around him, their curious eyes wide with wonder. "Who are you?" the girl with curly hair asked, tilting her head to one side. "I'm Ethan," he replied, crouching down to their level. "What are your names?" "Mia," the girl said, her voice filled with confidence. "This is Jake, and that's Lily and Max." "Hi," they chorused, each introducing themselves in turn, their voices overlapping in a delightful symphony. "What are you all playing?" Ethan inquired, genuinely interested. "We're pretending we're adventurers," Jake said, puffing out his chest. "We're searching for treasure hidden in the park. Can I join?" Ethan asked, surprising himself with the spontaneity of his question. The children exchanged excited glances, their eyes sparkling with the possibility of a new ally in their game. "Of course. You could be our captain," Lily explained, her enthusiasm contagious. "All right then, Captain Ethan, lead us to the treasure," Jake declared, pointing dramatically toward the playground in the distance. Ethan felt a rush of adrenaline as he stood tall, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. "Follow me, crew," he shouted, taking the lead as they raced toward the playground, laughter trailing behind them. As they played, Ethan lost himself in their world of imagination. For the first time in years, he felt the weight of his responsibilities lift, if only for a moment. He could hear the children's laughter echoing in his ears, and their innocent joy began to chip away at the walls he had built around his heart. Eventually, they sprawled on the grass, breathless and giggling. Ethan looked at their faces, illuminated by the sunlight, and filled with an unguarded joy that was intoxicating. He couldn't shake the feeling that these children were somehow connected to him, a thread of fate weaving their lives together. "Do you have any brothers or sisters?" Mia asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Ethan paused, the question striking a chord within him. "No, I don't," he replied, a hint of sadness creeping into his voice. "It's just me." Max frowned, his innocence shining through. "That's lonely. You should have a big family like us." Ethan's heart tugged at the thought. He had spent so long convincing himself that he didn't need anyone, yet here he was, surrounded by laughter and light, feeling a connection he could hardly comprehend. "Yeah, maybe," he said softly, looking away. "Can we be your family?" Jake asked, his words hanging in the air like a challenge. "Yeah," the others chimed in, their enthusiasm overwhelming. Ethan smiled, but a knot formed in his stomach. Could he really allow himself to feel such a connection? Could he let go of his emotional barricades and embrace the possibility of family? As their laughter echoed around him, he realized he was at a crossroads, one that could lead him to a future he had never dared to imagine. "Let's get some ice cream," Ethan suggested, a spark of spontaneity igniting within him. The children erupted with cheers, and as they raced ahead, Ethan followed, a smile plastered on his face, wondering what this unexpected adventure might hold. Ethan Carter stood at the edge of the park, his gaze lingering on the four children who had captivated him with their laughter and extraordinary resemblance to his own features. He was still processing the unexpected encounter when he noticed a woman sitting on a nearby bench, her eyes watching the children with a mix of affection and concern. It was Sarah, their caretaker, who had taken it upon herself to look after the orphans. As Ethan approached, he noticed the warmth in her smile, yet there was a heaviness in her demeanor that suggested burdens far beyond her years. "Good afternoon," he said, trying to sound casual. "I hope you don't mind me joining you." "Not at all," Sarah replied, her voice soft but firm. "The more the merrier. The kids enjoy company." She gestured toward the children, who were now engaged in a spirited game of tag, their joy palpable. "I'm Sarah, by the way. I take care of these little ones." "Ethan," he introduced himself, extending a hand. Sarah shook it, her grip strong and reassuring. "I couldn't help but notice how much fun they're having. They're quite a lively bunch." "They are," she said, her eyes sparkling as she watched them. They've had a tough time, but they managed to find joy in the smallest things. There was a pause, and Ethan could sense a story hidden behind her words. They're all orphans, you see. Their mother, well, she had a lot of struggles. Ethan felt a pang of empathy. What happened to her? Sarah hesitated, her eyes drifting to the ground. She passed away a year ago. It was a terrible situation. She had her demons, and unfortunately, the kids suffered for it. They were left to fend for themselves in a world that didn't seem to care. His heart ached at the thought. That's heartbreaking. They're resilient, though, Sarah continued, her voice gaining strength. Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max have each other, and that bond keeps them strong. They've become like a family, despite everything. She looked at Ethan, as if gauging his reaction. It's not easy for them to trust adults, but they're good kids. They just need someone to believe in them. I can only imagine, Ethan said, his mind racing. He felt an instinctive pull toward them, a connection that seemed to run deeper than mere coincidence. Do they have any plans for the future? Dreams, Sarah replied, her voice softening. Mia wants to be a veterinarian, Jake dreams of becoming an engineer, Lily wants to be an artist, and little Max just wants to be a superhero. The corners of her mouth turned upward, but Ethan could see the worry behind her smile. But it's hard to dream when you're not sure where you'll be tomorrow. Ethan nodded, taking in her words. Is there any way I could help? Perhaps through the shelter? Sarah's eyes widened slightly. You'd want to help them? I don't know, Ethan said, the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. I just feel like I need to do something. I have the resources, and I've been looking for meaning in my life lately. Maybe this is it. A flicker of hope crossed Sarah's face. That would mean the world to them. They've been through so much, and having someone like you in their lives could make a difference. Ethan watched the children again, their laughter echoing in the air. What about their mother? Was she involved with anyone before? She had a rough life, Sarah interjected gently. There were men, but none who stayed. She was a troubled soul, seeking love in all the wrong places. The kids never knew their father, and she never spoke of him. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I think she was trying to protect them. The conversation lingered in the air, as Ethan pondered the implications of her words. He felt an unsettling sense of curiosity bubbling beneath the surface, but he quickly pushed it aside. He needed to focus on the children, on giving them the love and attention they deserved. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Ethan decided to join the kids in their game. He felt a rush of warmth as they welcomed him, their laughter infectious. They played for what felt like hours, and for the first time in years, Ethan felt a sense of joy that he had long believed lost to him. Hey, Ethan! Mia shouted, her eyes bright. You have to tag someone. Ethan grinned, feeling a youthful exuberance he hadn't felt since childhood. He dashed after Jake, their laughter mingling in the evening air. The simplicity of the game brought back memories of running through fields, carefree and unburdened by the weight of adult responsibilities. As the game wound down and the children began to tire, they gathered around Ethan, their faces flushed with excitement. Can you come back tomorrow? Jake asked, his voice filled with hope. Absolutely, Ethan replied, his heart swelling. I wouldn't miss it for the world. After saying their goodbyes, Ethan found himself lingering by Sarah. Thank you for sharing their story with me. I'd like to learn more about them, about their mother, and their lives before the shelter. Sarah's expression turned serious. It's a tough story, Ethan. But if you're willing to listen, I think it's important for you to know. They deserve to understand where they came from. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. Yes, I want to help them, but I also want to understand their past. It's part of who they are. That I'll share what I can, she promised, her voice steady. But be prepared, it's not a pretty tale. I can handle it, Ethan replied, his voice firm. I've faced my own share of struggles. As he walked away from the park, his mind raced with thoughts of the children and their mother. The more he learned, the more he felt an inexplicable connection to them. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to their story, something that tied them together in ways he had yet to understand. In the days that followed, Ethan found himself drawn back to the shelter, each visit deepening his connection with the children. They shared dreams and fears, and with each story, Ethan reflected on his own childhood, his father's absence, and the void it created in his life. What about you, Ethan? Mia asked one day, her innocent curiosity shining through. What did you want to be when you were little? Ethan paused, the question stirring memories long buried. I wanted to be a pilot, he admitted, a soft smile breaking through. I dreamed of flying high above the clouds, free as a bird. Why didn't you? Jake chimed in, his eyes wide. I got caught up in other things, I guess, Ethan said, his voice trailing off. I let my ambitions lead me away from what truly mattered. Like family? Lily asked, her head tilted. Exactly, Ethan replied, feeling a sense of vulnerability wash over him. I spent so much time chasing success that I forgot about the people who matter most. And now, his voice faltered, I want to change that. Max, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. You could be our family, Ethan. You could be our dad. The word struck Ethan like a lightning bolt. He felt a surge of emotions, confusion, hope, fear, all clashing within him. Could he truly take on such a role? And what did that mean for him and the children? Let's take it one day at a time, Ethan said, his heart racing. But know that I'm here for you. You're not alone anymore. As he watched their faces light up with joy, Ethan felt a flicker of purpose igniting within him. Perhaps this was the beginning of something beautiful, a chance to rewrite the narrative of his life. But the lingering questions about their past remained, gnawing at him like an itch he couldn't scratch. With a newfound determination, Ethan knew he had to delve deeper into the shadows of their history. He couldn't shake the feeling that understanding the truth would not only help the children, but also guide him on his own journey of healing and connection. Ethan Carter's footsteps echoed softly against the polished floor of the shelter as he made his way toward the common area. He had come to love this place, a sanctuary for the children who had lost so much but still managed to find joy in the little things. The air was heavy with the scent of crayons and paint, remnants of the children's latest art project. He felt a sense of purpose wash over him, the kind he had not experienced in years. As he entered the room, he spotted Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max gathered around a table, their heads bent close together in conspiratorial whispers. The sight warmed his heart, and he couldn't help but smile. Just then, he noticed Sarah, the caretaker, standing off to the side, her brow furrowed with concern as she quietly talked to another staff member. Hey, kids, Ethan called out, his voice brightening the room. The children looked up, their faces lighting up with delight. Ethan, they explained in unison, running toward him. Mia, the eldest, launched herself into his arms, and he caught her effortlessly. Did you bring us anything? Jake asked, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Just me, Ethan replied, ruffling Jake's hair. But I'll make it up to you. How about a trip to the park later? Yay! Lily squealed, clapping her hands. Max, the youngest, bounced on his toes, his excitement palpable. As the children pulled him toward the art table, Ethan's gaze drifted back to Sarah, who was still in conversation with the other staff member. Their voices were low, but he could pick up snippets. She hasn't been the same since. Sarah's voice trailed off, and Ethan felt an undeniable pull to eavesdrop. Maybe talking to the kids would help, the staff member suggested, their tone sympathetic. They deserve to know their mother's story. Ethan's curiosity piqued. He subtly maneuvered closer, trying to hear more. The mention of the children's mother sent a shiver down his spine. He knew little about her, apart from the fact that she had abandoned them. You know how painful it is for them, Sarah continued. It's important they understand where they came from, even if it's hard to hear. True, the staff member agreed, but it's also a delicate matter. How much do you think they can handle? Ethan's heart raced. He stepped back, trying to process the weight of the conversation. The children were so full of life, yet he understood that there was a darkness lurking in their past, a history that shaped them in ways he could not yet fathom. Ethan? Mia's voice broke through his thoughts, snapping him back to the present. We're ready to show you our drawings. He forced a smile and joined them at the table. As they held up their colorful creations, crayon drawings of rainbows, superheroes, and pets, he felt an overwhelming desire to protect them from whatever shadows loomed in their lives. After a while, the children grew tired and settled down with their snacks. Ethan seized the moment to approach Sarah, who had just finished her discussion. Hey Sarah, can we talk for a second? He asked, his tone serious. Of course, Ethan, she replied, her expression shifting to one of concern. Is everything all right? I overheard you talking about the kid's mother, he said, choosing his words carefully. What's her story? I think it's important for me to know. Sarah hesitated, her gaze darting back to the children. It's a complicated situation, she finally said, her voice low. Their mother had a difficult life. She struggled with addiction and was in and out of rehab. The children were taken from her when she was unable to care for them. It's heart-wrenching. Ethan felt a pang of sadness. And what about their father? Do you know anything about him? Sarah shook her head. He's not in the picture. Their mother never talked about him. It's as if she wanted to erase that part of her life. Ethan's mind raced. He had spent so many years distancing himself from his own family history, yet here he was, facing the possibility of a hidden connection to these children. Do you think they'll ever find out the truth? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. They deserve to know, but it's delicate, Sarah replied, her eyes filled with empathy. I think it would help them heal, but I also worry about how it will affect them. Ethan nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision he felt was looming over him. He wanted to protect the children, but he also wanted them to know their story, however painful it might be. As he returned to the kids, he noticed Mia watching him, her expression thoughtful. Are you okay, Ethan? She asked, concern etched on her young face. Yeah, I'm fine, Mia, he replied, forcing a smile. Just a little tired, I guess. Do you want to help us with our art? Lily chimed in, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. Absolutely, Ethan said, feeling a rush of warmth at their eagerness to include him. As they worked together, laughter filled the room, momentarily pushing the shadows away. But as he painted alongside them, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story, more that he had to uncover. Later that evening, after saying goodbye to the children, Ethan found himself in his luxurious penthouse, the city lights twinkling outside his window like stars. He had always been a man of logic, preferring to rely on facts and figures, but now he felt a deep, unsettling need to dig into his family's past. He opened his laptop and began searching for any information he could find about the children's mother. The minutes turned into hours as he scoured through public records and news articles. Finally, he stumbled upon a mention of a woman named Clara Morgan, who had been involved in a tragic incident years ago, a car accident that had claimed her life. Ethan's heart sank as he read the details. Clara had been found with a blood alcohol level far above the legal limit, and witnesses reported that she had been driving recklessly. But what caught his attention was a name mentioned in the article. A wealthy businessman who had once been in a relationship with her. The name echoed in his mind like a haunting melody. It was a name he had heard only whispered in the corners of family gatherings, a name that belonged to his estranged father. Could it be? He murmured to himself, disbelief washing over him. As he continued to read, the pieces began to fall into place. The timeline matched up, and a chill ran down his spine. If Clara had been with his father, then the children could very well be his half-siblings. The realization hit him like a tidal wave, leaving him breathless. "What have I stumbled into?" he whispered, his mind racing. Ethan leaned back in his chair, grappling with the enormity of the discovery. Torn between disbelief and an insatiable curiosity, he felt a deep need to confront his own family history. These children, who had unknowingly captured his heart, might also share his bloodline. The gravity of the situation pressed down on him, and he knew that to protect them, he would need to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. As the city buzzed below him, Ethan was no longer just a billionaire lost in the pursuit of wealth. He was a man on the brink of a profound revelation, one that could redefine his entire existence. Ethan Carter stood in the lavish living room of his mother's home, the elegant decor starkly contrasting with the turmoil brewing inside him. The walls, adorned with family portraits that seemed to mock his current predicament, bore witness to a history he had long sought to escape. He felt a mixture of determination and dread as he prepared to confront the woman who had shaped much of his life, but had also concealed its most significant truths. His mother, Margaret Carter, was seated at the grand piano in the corner, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the keys, producing a melody that was both beautiful and melancholic. The soft notes hung in the air, a fragile veil over the tension that loomed between them. Ethan cleared his throat, interrupting the ethereal moment. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. Margaret stopped playing and turned to face him, her expression shifting from serene to apprehensive. "Ethan, what's wrong?" He took a deep breath, summoning the courage he needed. "I've learned something important. About the children, about us." Her brow furrowed, and he could see the flicker of fear in her eyes. "What do you mean?" "Those kids, Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max, they might be my half-siblings. I think their mother was involved with someone in our family." The words hung heavy in the air, their weight palpable. Margaret's face paled, and for a moment, it seemed as if the room had lost its color. "Ethan, she began, her voice faltering. "Did you know?" he pressed, unable to keep the hurt from his tone. "Did you know that I might have siblings out there?" Margaret hesitated, her gaze drifting to the window, as if searching for answers in the garden beyond. "I had an affair a long time ago," she confessed, her voice barely above a whisper. "With a woman who had children. I never wanted you to know. I was ashamed." Ethan felt a mixture of anger and sorrow. "You kept this from me. All these years I felt so alone, and now I find out I have siblings who are orphans. I could have known them. I could have—" "Ethan, please," she interrupted, her voice rising slightly in desperation. "I was trying to protect you. I didn't want to burden you with a family that I had lost." "Burden me?" he echoed, incredulous. "These kids are innocent. They'd been through so much, and they deserve to know the truth. They deserve to have a family." Margaret looked down, her hands trembling slightly. "You don't understand the complexities, Ethan. The world isn't as simple as you think." "Then help me understand," he explained, frustration spilling over. "If there's a chance I can be there for them, to give them a family, why wouldn't you want that for me?" "I was afraid," she admitted, her voice breaking. "Afraid of what it would mean for you, for us. I thought I was protecting you from a painful truth." Ethan's heart ached for the burden his mother carried, yet he couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I need to meet them, Mom. I need to tell them what I discovered. They'd been waiting for someone to love them, and I want to be that person." Margaret's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Ethan, please think this through. This isn't just about you. This is about their lives, their future. You don't know what you're stepping into." "Maybe I don't," he replied, his voice softer now. "But I can't walk away from this. I won't." Silence enveloped them, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. Finally, Margaret nodded, her resolve crumbling. "If you feel that strongly, then I won't stop you. But be careful, Ethan. The past has a way of complicating the present." Ethan took a deep breath, feeling a sense of determination swell within him. "I'll be careful, Mom. I promise." As he left his mother's home, he felt a strange mix of liberation and burden. The truth, while painful, had opened a door he never knew existed. He had siblings, and the thought ignited a flicker of hope within him. Later that evening, Ethan arranged to meet Sarah and the children at a small cafe near the shelter. The warm, inviting atmosphere stood in stark contrast to the anxiety swirling inside him. He arrived early, his mind racing with possibilities and uncertainties. Would they accept him? Would they see him as a brother, or merely a stranger intruding on their lives? When the door chimed and Sarah walked in, followed closely by the children, Ethan's heart raced. "Hey, everyone," he called, waving them over to his table. "Ethan!" Mia exclaimed, her face lighting up with excitement. The others followed suit, their smiles infectious. "Hi!" Jake chimed in, plopping down in the seat next to Ethan. "We were hoping you'd come." Ethan smiled, feeling the warmth of their enthusiasm wash over him. "Of course I came. I wanted to talk to you all about something really important." The children exchanged curious glances, their playful banter fading as they sensed the seriousness in his tone. "What is it?" Lily asked, her big brown eyes wide with anticipation. Ethan glanced at Sarah, who gave him an encouraging nod. "I've been learning a lot about you all, and I think there's a chance we might be family." The children's expression shifted from excitement to confusion, and then to disbelief. "What do you mean?" Max asked, tilting his head. Ethan took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "Well, I discovered that your mother, she was connected to my family in a way that I never realized until recently. She had an affair with my father, and that means you might be my half-siblings." The silence that followed felt deafening. The children stared at him, their eyes darting between each other, processing the revelation. Finally, Mia spoke up, her voice trembling with hope. "So, you're saying we could be family?" Ethan nodded, his heart racing as he watched their reactions. "Yes, exactly. I know it sounds strange, but I want to be there for you. I want to help you however I can." Jake leaned forward, his excitement bubbling over. "Does that mean we can live with you? Like, really live with you?" The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Ethan felt a surge of emotion at the thought. "I want to explore that. I want to see what being a family could mean for us." Lily clasped her hands together, her eyes sparkling. "Do you think we could go on adventures together? Like real brothers and sisters?" Max, always the skeptic, narrowed his eyes. "But what if you change your mind? What if you don't want us anymore?" Ethan's heart clenched at the fear in Max's voice. "I promise you, I'm not going anywhere. I want to be a part of your lives. I want to be there for you." Sarah watched the exchange with a mix of hope and caution. "Ethan, this is a big step for all of you. It's important to take your time and see how this unfolds." "I understand," Ethan replied, his determination unwavering. "But I believe there's a chance for us to build something beautiful together. A family." The children exchanged glances again, their expressions filled with a blend of hope and uncertainty. Finally, Mia spoke up, her voice soft yet resolute. "We want to try. We want to see if you could be our family." Ethan felt a swell of emotion in his chest, a mixture of joy and trepidation. "Then let's take this step together. We'll figure it out, one day at a time." As they sat together, the weight of the past began to lift, replaced by the fragile threads of connection that bound them. In that moment, Ethan realized that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges, but it was a journey he was willing to embrace. He had found a spark of hope in the children's eyes, and he was determined to nurture the flame, no matter where it led him. Ethan Carter stood at the edge of the park, the sun casting warm rays over him as he watched Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max race each other on their bicycles. Laughter and shouts filled the air, the sounds of carefree childhood echoing around him. It was a joy he hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging that seemed to envelop him like a long-lost embrace. With each passing day, his heart opened wider to the idea of family, a concept he had long thought was foreign to him. As they cycled, Ethan remembered his own childhood, marked by loneliness and the absence of a father. He had been a boy who craved adventure, yet he had been confined to the shadows of his mother's disappointment. "You can't go out, Ethan. You have to focus on your studies," she would often say, her voice laced with a bitterness he could hardly understand at the time. But now, as he watched the children race around, he felt a longing to give them the experiences he had missed. "Hey, slow down," he called out, laughing as they made a sharp turn, narrowly avoiding a tree. "You'll end up in the bushes." Max, the youngest, turned back, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "You can't catch us, Ethan," he shouted, pedaling faster. "Oh, just wait," Ethan replied, a competitive spirit igniting within him. He took off after them, his laughter mingling with theirs, a sound that felt almost foreign yet exhilarating. The chase was on, and for the first time in years, he felt the weight of his responsibilities lift, replaced by the simple joy of play. After their impromptu race, they collapsed on the grass, panting and giggling. Ethan lay back, looking up at the sky. "You know, when I was your age, I thought I could fly," he said, a smile playing on his lips. "I climbed the tallest tree in my neighborhood, thinking if I jumped just right, I could soar through the air." "Did you jump?" Lily asked, her big brown eyes wide with curiosity. "Of course. But I didn't fly. I just fell, hard." He chuckled, recalling the sting of that memory. "But it was worth it for the thrill." Jake, ever the practical one, raised an eyebrow. "That's a dumb idea, Ethan. You could have gotten hurt." "Maybe," he admitted, "but it taught me that sometimes you have to take risks if you want to feel alive. Like when you took us to the amusement park last week." Mia chimed in, her voice filled with excitement. "That was the best day ever." Ethan beamed at her enthusiasm. "Exactly. Life is about those moments, isn't it? The fun, the laughter. It's what makes everything worthwhile." Just then, his phone buzzed in his pocket, interrupting their moment. He pulled it out and frowned at the name on the screen. It was his lawyer. "Excuse me, kids, I need to take this call," he said, standing up and walking a few paces away. "Okay," they replied in unison, resuming their playful banter as Ethan answered the call. "Ethan, we need to talk." His lawyer's voice was serious, cutting through the light-hearted atmosphere. "I just received news regarding the children's mother's estate." Ethan's heart sank. "What about it?" "They're at risk of being separated if no one claims them. There's an interim guardian involved, and without legal action, they could be placed in foster care." Ethan felt a wave of dread wash over him. "What do I need to do?" "You'll need to file for custody as soon as possible," his lawyer instructed. "It won't be easy. There are protocols to follow, and you'll need to demonstrate that you can provide for them. But considering your financial standing, you have a strong case." "Custody?" The word hung heavily in the air. He hadn't considered the implications of what that meant. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of responsibility." "Ethan, you've already formed a bond with them. They look up to you. If you want them to be part of your life, you have to fight for them." He glanced back at the children, their laughter ringing clear and bright, and felt a rush of determination. "You're right. I'll fight for them," he said firmly, hanging up the phone and turning back toward the kids. "Hey, guys," he called, his voice filled with newfound energy. The children paused, turning to him with curious expressions. "How about we plan a special day together? Just the 5 of us." "Like what?" Jake asked, his eyebrows knitting together in thought. "Let's go on an adventure," Ethan replied, his mind racing with ideas. "We can go hiking, maybe even have a picnic at the top of a hill." "Who's in?" Mia's face lit up. "I am. Can we take sandwiches? And juice boxes?" "Of course." Ethan laughed. "You can help me pack them." As they discussed their plans, Ethan felt a sense of purpose blooming inside him. He had to protect this newfound family, no matter the cost. They deserved more than being shuttled from one place to another. They deserved stability, love, and a home. That evening, as he sat with the children around the dinner table in his spacious apartment, he watched them chatter excitedly about their hiking trip. They were animated, their voices overlapping in a joyful symphony. Ethan couldn't help but smile, realizing how quickly they had become part of his life. "Okay, everyone," he said, raising his glass of lemonade. "A toast to adventures and to family." "To family," they echoed, clinking their glasses together. As the laughter continued, Ethan felt a sense of warmth envelop him. He was stepping into a new rule, one he had never imagined he would embrace. But as he looked at the children, for souls who had become so intertwined with his own, he knew he couldn't let them slip away. "Just so you know," Ethan said, his tone turning serious, "I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we stay together. No one is taking you away from me." Mia's eyes sparkled with hope. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely," he replied, his heart swelling with resolve. "You're mine now, and I'm not going anywhere." The children cheered, and in that moment, Ethan felt as if the pieces of his life were finally coming together. The past was still there, looming like a shadow over him, but the future was bright, a future filled with laughter, love, and the promise of family. As they finished dinner, he felt a sense of clarity wash over him. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the children by his side, he would fight for their future. He would forge ahead, not just as their guardian, but as a father, something he never thought he could be. The adventure was just beginning, and he was determined to make it the best one yet. Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie with a focused intensity that mirrored the turmoil brewing in his mind. The reflection staring back at him was a man transformed. The once aloof billionaire was now a man on the brink of fatherhood. As he ran his fingers to his hair, memories of Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max flooded his thoughts, each laugh, each shared secret, each moment of connection adding layers to a bond he had never anticipated. The upcoming custody hearing loomed before him, a battleground where he would fight to keep the only family he had ever felt connected to. "Ethan, are you ready?" Sarah's voice broke through his reverie, pulling him back to the reality of the moment. She stood at the doorway, her expression a blend of concern and encouragement. "I think so," he replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I want this to go well for the kids." Sarah stepped into the room, her presence radiating warmth. "You've done an incredible job with them. They love you, and they see you as family. Just be honest in there. That's all you need to do." Ethan nodded, grateful for her support. He had spent countless hours with the children, learning their quirks, sharing stories from his own childhood that he had locked away. With each visit to the shelter, he had felt himself shedding layers of emotional distance that had long defined him. Now, the thought of losing them felt like a knife to the heart. As they arrived at the courthouse, a sense of gravity filled the air. Ethan took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The bustling hallways echoed with voices, lawyers discussing cases, families reuniting, and children laughing, oblivious to the weight of the world that often pressed down on adults. He caught sight of Mia, Jake, Lily, and Max waiting with Sarah. Their small frames were filled with a mixture of anticipation and fear, a reflection of his own inner turmoil. "Ethan!" Mia called out, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and anxiety. She rushed to him, wrapping her small arms around his waist. "Are we going to be okay?" He knelt to her level, cupping her face in his hands. "I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to keep us together. You all mean the world to me." The other children joined in, forming a small circle around him. This moment, this connection, was more profound than any business deal he had ever closed. It was raw and real, a bond forged in love and shared experiences. "Let's go in there and show them what family looks like," he said, standing taller and feeling the strength of their unity. The courtroom felt imposing, its walls lined with dark wood and the air thick with tension. As they entered, Ethan's heart raced. He spotted the judge seated at the front, a stern-looking woman with glasses perched on her nose, reviewing paperwork. The opposing lawyer, a slick man with an air of confidence, was already seated, preparing his case against Ethan. "Good luck, Ethan," Sarah whispered, squeezing his shoulder as they took their seats. The hearing commenced, and Ethan listened intently as the lawyer presented arguments against his custody claim. He spoke of the children's unstable history, their mother's struggles, and the potential disruptions in their lives if placed with someone they barely knew. Each word felt like a blow, but Ethan remained resolute. When it was finally Ethan's turn to speak, he rose, his heart pounding in his chest. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady despite the nerves coursing through him. "I stand here today not just as a man seeking custody, but as someone who has come to know these children, to love them, and to cherish the bond we've formed. They are my family, and I will do everything in my power to provide them with a stable and loving home." He felt the eyes of the children upon him, their trust and hope shining through the uncertainty. "I spent time with them, learning about their dreams and fears. I have seen how they light up when they talk about their futures. They deserve a chance to thrive, and I want to be the one to help them do that." The opposing lawyer leaned forward, readying his rebuttal, but before he could speak, the courtroom doors swung open. A woman hurried in, her face flushed with urgency. She was slightly older than Ethan, with familiar features that made his heart skip a beat. "Your Honor, I apologize for interrupting," she said breathlessly, her eyes darting around the room before landing on the children. "I am here for my nieces and nephews. I am their biological aunt." Ethan's heart raced as the weight of the moment sank in. This was the missing piece he hadn't anticipated. The woman's presence shifted the dynamics of the room, and the children's eyes widened with confusion and hope. "Are you saying you're the sister of their mother?" the judge asked, her tone incredulous. "Yes, I am," the woman replied, her voice stronger now. "I had no idea they were in a shelter. I've been searching for them since their mother's passing. She had a twin sister, and I've been trying to find them for years. I want to take them home." Ethan felt a whirlwind of emotions. This revelation could change everything. His thoughts raced as he considered the implications. Would this woman take the children away? But there was something in her eyes, a desperate wish to connect, and he couldn't ignore the possibility that she could be a part of their lives. "Your Honor," he interjected, "if she is indeed their biological aunt, then perhaps we could explore a solution that keeps the children together. They deserve to know their family." The judge nodded thoughtfully, glancing between Ethan and the woman. "It seems we have new information to consider. I will allow a short recess for all parties to discuss the situation." As the gavel struck, the tension in the room eased slightly. Ethan turned to the woman, who was now kneeling beside the children, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry for everything," she whispered, hugging Mia tightly. "I've missed you all so much." Ethan watched the scene unfold before him, a mix of hope and uncertainty swirling in his heart. He stepped closer, introducing himself. "I'm Ethan. I've been spending time with the kids, and I care deeply for them. I want to make sure they have the best chance at a happy life." The woman looked up at him, her expression softening. "I appreciate that. I never wanted them to feel alone. I want to be there for them, but I also see how much they love you." The children, sensing the shift in atmosphere, gathered around, their faces lighting up with a mix of confusion and hope. "Are we going to be okay?" Jake asked, glancing between Ethan and the woman. "Yes," Ethan replied, kneeling to meet their eyes. "You're going to be okay. We'll figure this out together." As they stood in that moment, a new understanding blossomed between them, a potential for a family that could embrace all the love and complexities that came with it. Ethan felt a surge of determination. No matter the outcome of the hearing, he knew that he would fight for these children, for their happiness, and for a future that included both him and their newfound aunt. As they prepared to return to the courtroom, Ethan looked at the children, their faces a mixture of excitement and trepidation. "Whatever happens, remember that you are loved. You'll always have a place in my heart." With those words, Ethan stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever awaited them, united in purpose and love. He had found his family in the most unexpected way, and he was determined to protect the bond at all costs. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape together, a tapestry of love, resilience, and newfound hope.